Great. There we go.
Okay, so I'm good to go.
You're good to go, Narudol. Okay, I
Thank you.
don't think I need another introduction. So please go ahead.
All right. So this is more of a mini study of the very first extensive reading program at my faculty and perhaps at my university. As you might have known from last night's presentation that I'm a member of Thailand Extensive Reading Association. Um, just a bit over a year that I was introduced to extensive reading and joined the association. And right after a few sessions with TIARA or Thailand Extensive Reading Association, I was somewhat confident to try the first extensive reading program at my faculty at a faculty of education right here in Bangkok. So a little bit of the background of this study. The extensive reading was part of the language and cultures for teachers, which is a co-teaching class. I co-teach with another lecturer, but we were always there at the same time. And this is an outside classroom language development activity, which was already there without extensive reading, meaning they did something else, going online to other resources, did something else, and sent a record, like on an honesty record to the teachers, like what they did. And then when I introduced this extensive reading program, then we switched this to ER. And we use ER Central, which like we could do the tracking, looking at what the students have been doing with the reading. And we will be focusing on the what I try in motivating my students for this program. And this was all online, by the way. It happened during the spread of the pandemic. So the questions were, how do the students or the participants perceive reading after the extensive reading program of one semester, about 4 months, and what were attempted to motivate reading of my students. So out of the total of 62 students, 58 agreed to participate in this. I mean, all of them read, but only 58 agree for the data collection, and they were all undergraduate teaching students with low proficiency in English. They studied the foundation English course, the foundation one. I'm not sure if it's equivalent to perhaps a B1 or B2. I'm not so sure if the course was designed to be equivalent to that. The course is not responsible by the faculty that I'm teaching though. And one group is a Thai language teaching student. The other is a physical education. And they are all in my language and cultures for teachers class. 12 plus 3 weeks of ER used in the program. I will tell you later why it's 12 plus 3. And after each reading in ER, there is a quiz, three questions of quiz. And the requirement is that they need to have at least 2 out of 3 correct answers. No words or speed limit. What I asked them to do was to read 30 minutes per week for the first 6 weeks. And this came from an agreement with the students. Ideally, it would be an hour per week. They negotiated, and we agreed at 30 minutes per week. Before introducing the 30 minutes of reading to them, I did a mini survey that most of my students spend at least 7 to 12 hours per day playing games online. So I use that as a reference, asking them that I only need half an hour per week from those 7 hours per day from them to do the reading. And then after the first 6 weeks, then I asked them for a 1 hour target. Still, they negotiated and we agree at 45 minutes for the rest of the semester, which was the other 6 weeks. And after the first 6 weeks, I did a little survey on the reading perception, how they perceive their reading so far. And at the end of 12 weeks, I asked whether they would continue reading and analyze it basing on content analysis. So what were attempted in motivating the readers? The reading activity was accumulated to 10% of the grading of, of the course. So it's not ideal for extensive reading, but it's needed to make the student actually read. And like I have mentioned that we decided on the timing together, and weekly they would submit their reading record and also their reading score when they did the quiz, and I would give them feedback, mostly motivational message to keep them reading. And we did this on Google Classroom, and I always welcome any questions, any things that they find difficult or anything that would make their reading more easily, then they could tell me. And the first few weeks, when they submit the record of their reading, there was no deduction if it's a late submission, just to keep them reading. And I also keep track of their reading scores to make sure that there is no cheating. And actually, the priority is to make sure that they started reading. Before class, an online class, I try to arrive early and ask them how their reading went. And a lot of them like to share their stories. Sometimes it was so much that I need to stop them so that they won't give it all out to to their peers who have not read the stories that they read. So they were asked to share how they perceive or how they like the stories, but not giving the summary of the stories that they read. And the number six, this worked quite well for me. I stay a little later after class. And some of the students who have not read at all or who had problem reading would stay and ask me like individually what what the problem was. Um, some of them um, didn't want to start reading because they were so afraid of the English language. I talk about this in the ERF panel. I say it again that in my class, a lot of students, because in schools they were highlighted with incorrect answers when they had their English class. So that perception of being highlighted as giving, judging correct or incorrect, um, is still with them. So they were afraid even to read. Even when I told them that, it's okay, it's just the quiz. If you didn't get 2 out of 3 right, then just read the next one. I'm not judging on any of the quiz result at all. And there was no limit or there was no requirement of number of stories. Just make it 30 minutes per week. And sometimes they need you to motivate them, like one student said that he tried to read a story but he could barely understand anything, but he read till the end, and I pointed out that there was already a progress. Like how many pages of English you read before you joined this class? He said none. And sometimes, students need that. And so I asked him to read something that is relevant to his everyday life or his study. He was from physical education, so I suggest he reads the sports section. And next few weeks later, he said that he never thought that reading English would be possible to him at all, and he didn't feel like reading, like, academic reading or like formal reading, because it's sport. It's something that he already knows. And number seven, I try to be responsive and supportive whenever they reach out, be it IT or material selection. At the first week, my students got a little struggle with a little bit of selecting the right level of reading. Sometimes they find it hard, but they don't feel like, lowering their level of reading material. And sometimes they read too fast, and they said that they they like easy story, children's story. And then I need to reconfirm with them that there was some vocabulary that they don't know, in that way that will benefit them. So, and I also have incentive halfway along the reading. Some stationery, something that is not really costly at all. And this incentive were given not only for to those who read with the most number of words, but also with, progress. And I also asked feedbacks uh, after the 6 week, and anonymously ask them to vote which feedback they like. And it doesn't really have to be positive feedback. And initially I told them that we will read every week for for 15 for 15 weeks, but then I knew in advance that they wouldn't want to read during the midterm and final exam. So it was something that I knew, I predetermined, but I make it kind of like a reward for them, that okay, then we will deduct to maybe 12 weeks, because you guys are very active in reading. So no ER, no reading during the exam week. And they were all happy with that. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, because if they really like reading, then maybe they would like, oh no, I want to read more. But um, we understand the burden of having exams for Thai university student as well. And because the class was taught in English after midterm, and so my co-teacher, my co-teaching lecturer also helped me complementing their English language performance in class when they try to, speak or express um, or answers things in English. And it was communicative, and and then that helped cheer up the students a lot. I even get a comment from my co-teacher that she has been teaching physical education students for many years, and this is one of the few classes that the PE students uh, were were very confident to communicate in English. And then last point, we encourage the students to complete the reading for those who started late or have not started yet. And after telling them that okay, the grading would count up until only week 12, but we encourage them to read on until whenever they want. And we even told them that even after the course end, if they continue reading, we will keep the class open in ER Central. And so after 6 and 12 weeks, here are the reading achievements combined of all the 58 readers. Um, they start out quite slow, but after 12 week, I think they did pretty good, though it doesn't seem a lot, but it's something to look at as the big progress though. Some of them read like extensively a lot, especially the Thai language teaching students. The PE struggle a little bit, but they came along and they managed to fill up the 30 minutes and 45 minutes. So I tend to focus on the progress over productivity, I believe, and it's great that they did the outside classroom reading, and I'm still exploring different ways to motivate my students. So the feedbacks after 6 weeks were all positive, which is expectable because still accumulated for the grading. And of all the positive feedbacks. Uh, oh, by the way, there were 10 no comments though. I mean, it could have been negative, but we never know. Okay, but of all the positive comments, um, most of them mentioning positive thing of doing extensive reading, and relating it to the English language and learning vocabulary. Um, seven comments mentioning reading, and 11 mention the joy of reading actually. If you focus on the blue section, that would be um, the percentage of the respondent who said that they would continue um, after 12 week of the accumulated grading. So in week 13, about 32% said they would continue reading, and they did. 28 of them read two stories, and then finally, only two of them read eight stories. Okay. I didn't know if they would read more. I prepared the Google form for them to fill out to up to only eight stories. But earlier on, I already informed them that if they read more than eight stories, then they could tell me. I could make more of those Google form for them to report on their reading. And then week 14, from 32 or 31, it comes down to 22 of those who expressed that they would continue reading, and from 28 comes down to 22 respondents read one story, and then the same two read eight stories. And last, week 15, from 30 something and 20 something down to 12 percent said that they would continue reading, and 14 of them read one story. And the last two, no more eight stories, just seven stories maximum. And for the perception, I can't really come up with a conclusion with the perception. What I can come up and show you here is that after the 12 and plus 3 and uh, from week 13 to 15, these are the comments from the week that were not counted as part of the grading. So they perhaps gave a more straightforward comments on how they perceive the reading. 12% of the 58 respondents said that they would continue reading, and they relate that to the development of reading skills. 7% of them were undecided if they wanted to continue or not. And the highlight is here. 41% said that they would no longer read. And the reasons that they gave, 13 of them said related to, being busy with the studies and other things. And then eight of them mentioning limited materials or they ran out of the material that they wanted to read. And three of them said that they got bored, just simply boredom. So the respondent, well, if you look at the first 6 weeks, perceived reading positively, but less than 60% expressed that they would continue reading. And with that 60%, I went back to look at the table in ER Central. None, none came back to read. I don't know if they have another personal account and read in there or not, but not in the account, the class that I told them that I would always keep it open. So I think that motivation is constantly needed in my context to keep them reading. And also they would need your technical and psychological support. And like we have said in a lot of sessions, I believe that materials and resources is always come into play. All right. So I believe that is all for my presentation, and let's hear from your thoughts. Thank you.